Hey guys. Well, I'm sorting out my photos folders and came across a whole pile of stuff that I filmed when I went down to see my parents in January. God, I can't remember. And never got it together. So I've decided to do it differently because my videos just end up so long. Anyway, here's a bit of the vid. Okay, I'll start it from the beginning. So here's me and my sister. We're up on the top of Portland looking down the cliffs. I show you this map here. This is an old map of Portland. We're sort of here. There's nothing but sea here and the harbour over here. And this guy here, Jeff Kirby, has got an awesome site that has some good photographs of this. And this is an old map. It's probably whoever Queen Elizabeth's father was, George the 6th, 5th, I don't know. Some George. Because it's got His Majesty's prison. But as children we lived in these houses here, and this is the edge of the cliff. That is the cliff and the scrub leading down to this railway line. This railway line wasn't in action until the very late 19th century. And then we walked down here to the Folly water piers. Here's the reservoirs we saw, and here on the beach are salt ponds. But what I wanted to show you on this map was all this stones, and these are all standing stones. Stone. They were all incredible standing stones, and they've all gone. They've all been purloined by whoever. And where we used to live the second time was we were always moving when we were kids. There were some more houses along here. This was our house here, right on the edge of the cliff. And apparently there were standing stones here as well. And they picked them up and built these houses and put them in the governor's garden, which is sort of round here. The stone there. So let's go back to my film. So here we stood on the top of the cliff looking down. Okay, so I'm out with my sister. This is where we're going to go, on the cliff. Behind us is the Borstal prison thing. Now that there behind, just here, this is crazy shit, really. Okay, so sorry for swearing, I'm trying not to swear. That we used to call this the pigsty. They've fenced it all off, car parked it. We used to go in here and we used to sneak up into the prison. We used to be able to get up into the prison. This old guy used to tell there was all monkeys up there. There must have been squirrels, and we used to go up. But I wish we could get in here because there's the remains of an old fireplace and a really old looking building in there with no history. So the Borstal prison thing, and we're going down to here. So these were allegedly Victorian reservoirs. There's a couple of structures down there that we used to call the tadpole ponds. We're going to investigate. So on this guy's site shows this. So it's an abandoned rifle range. When we were children they used to fire and put a red flag up on the top of the cliff. So if the red flag was up we weren't allowed down to play on the beach, which is where we used to play all the time. We just used to go out all day. No parents, just used to run wild. In fact I was nearly sexually abused down there one day. I got caught alone by this crazy local teen, and if my friend hadn't turned up, I'd had a row with my dad and I ran down the beach just to get away out of the house on a Sunday afternoon. I suppose I was about 13. And if my friend hadn't decided to come down the beach and look for me, God knows what would have happened. But my parents didn't believe me either. We went to the police and they didn't believe me. Probably because he was the son of somebody local, and we were what they called outsiders, because my dad was a prison officer, cook. So this is this thing here. I do a closer look at the stones. It was built between 1889 and 1903 and closed in the 1980s after a member of the public was shot by a bullet and killed on a rifle range in Hampshire. So that's what it looks like. That's inside. This guy's gone inside. Jeff Kirby, his name is. Hats off to Jeff Kirby. Has done some amazing work on Portland. These are obviously modern pillboxes. Look. This raised the question during my visit, who would bother to carry 2 old seats all the way down from the pass, from the cliff edge, to put it in the sentry box? Someone with enormous energy, spare time, and an urge to relax in a brick hut far from civilization. Well, I asked similar questions about how the hell the Victorians got all this together down there, because it's pretty inaccessible. It's not there now, obviously, just these reservoirs. Now, Portland hasn't got any fresh water. Yeah, the Verne prison, the Borstal, which is above, had a very sophisticated water pumping system. So they built all this knowing that there was no water, and eventually gave up. It was closed due to an outbreak of typhoid. All that remains now are the foundations, which are wholly overgrown. Attempts were made to locate pure sources of water on Portland, but every attempt failed. Above we see a test shaft being sunk at Southwell. There. And they ended up building it on the mainland quite some way off, in that way. Here's the Victorians swimming in the reservoirs. It was when one of the Borstal boys, I think one of them got ill with typhoid. Oh no, one of them drowned in 1933, so they didn't use them anymore. We used to play down there all the time. Typhoid, man. Right, so let's go back. These are the beaches we used to play on as children. Now these 2 beaches, these are that there, a little pond, and this pond here. They're salt ponds, and he mentions those as well. Got to move the map to get to the salt ponds. It's quite a good map. So you go south. Oh, I've gone too far. Just looking down. God, I can't believe we used to go down there as kids all the time. No. That's the top of the path we walk down. So they used to fly the flag here. This is one of the salt ponds. A whale got washed up there. They're nobody knows. I mean, I did do a wiki search on them. two salt pans have existed for centuries. The origins remain uncertain. However, the limited evidence recorded suggested they are likely to be medieval. The pans would flood at high spring tides, and once they dried through the evaporation of the seawater, the encrusted salt would be removed from the rocks. Although the pans have remained unused for centuries, both remain completely intact and undisturbed. Now, in all my years of going down there, I have never seen any salt deposits. I've got a theory. I know it sounds a bit crazy. Now what? So yeah, I have a theory that this was a desalination plant that they found and probably couldn't use. That was where, this is the beach where I nearly got abused. It's nice, Jill, the tide's out. So here we go. We could go down to one of the beaches. So here we are. On your friend. So down at the desalination, at the reservoirs. Well, here, and I'm just looking around to see. I see this one here. They're like reservoir sort of pits, and this one here is the one we used to call the tadpole pond. Well, because you get tadpoles in there. But you can't really see the brickwork apart from here, so I think I might go down and have a look. I've got to go down this quite sheer. I did go down and I did film, but for some reason the film didn't take. But sort of. What it's like is I'll turn me off. All this here, down here, is cement over brick, very sort of nicely laid brick. Here you can see it here, so you can see here the original sort of brickwork of this place where the concrete's come off. So I think these things were already there, and the Victorians took them over, built a waterworks and tried to resurrect the system. All these sort of really huge blocks underneath the concrete, the original structure. They couldn't get it working properly, so they gave it to the prison took it over and used it as swimming pools for the prison boys, the Bolster boys, until they got typhoid, and then somebody drowned, and then they were just left to rot. You'll see that what they look like and what they were used for in Victorian times when I do my research afterwards. Well, I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. Salt pans. It's all along here, and it's pretty inaccessible. Seriously. There's a good sewer system as well. It's like all in place already when the prison opened. They don't mention any sewer system being built. Look, this is the old pigsty. This is where we used to play. Can you see this? Old lime kiln. And we used to climb up round the back, and we used to be able to get into the back of the prison. It was crazy. No wonder they've bloody done all this now. You can only look through, and now they've car parked it off as well, I think. Look at it. These are more like ovens to me. They call them lime kilns. And look at all this brick, these bricks, this here. Some place, eh? Yeah, they used to keep pigs in it, which hence the pigsty. Yeah. Go back up. Yeah. So I think this was a desalination plant. They had 3 reservoirs here, and then they probably had a system where they could get rid of the salt in the salt pans, which are literally just below here. So let's carry on with my flim.
Strange thing. I wonder what it was. And there's 1, 2, 3 of them, and they look like they may have been water reservoirs or something.
So bearing in mind there's no fresh water on Portland, it's known for it. There's a few little wells, a few natural wells, with names like Culver Well, and they're quite magical. There's one at the bottom of the cove called Church Ope, and that's fresh spring water, but there's no natural water source. So I think this was an old desalination plant from back in God knows when, long time, you know.
Here, this was always difficult to get to as kids, but now I've just had to come through pretty much.
Yeah, it was difficult to get to.
Some heavy undergrowth. They're 2 sunken like rooms.
Can you imagine the effort? I mean, look where this place is. Again. Can you imagine the effort? So this is later than then. So here's the waterworks. They'd have to bring any materials in by ship to Folly Pier, which I'll show you in a minute, or down the cliff from here, the path we walked down, or along this, which was a railway from the late 19th century, but the quarries, the closest quarry is here, and apart from the prison, they probably used the prisoners for most of their work. They said they brought them all in. There weren't many people living on Portland. There weren't many people on the island. Not at all. There's hardly any houses still. Really, it's not a very big place. They're very funny about building on Portland as well.
There's the dividing wall. There's the steps going down into the first one. And oh, bloody fell. Here's the second one there. I don't really want to sort of negotiate this bit of path here because it's right on the edge. But we used to be able to get to these as kids, but you can see they go quite deep.
So I'll move along a bit. This is Folly Pier. So cool because it's pretty useless. There's nothing comes in here now. No boats coming. If it was so easy, if it was so easy to, well, it couldn't have been easy. If it was so easy or whatever, so accessible, why is it never used? It's never used again.
This thing here.
Look at it.
I mean, this beach here is seriously like remote. This is where we used to play as kids.
Nobody ever comes here.
Fantastic. Look at the stonework on this breakwater here.
So
it goes quite a way along.
They
Where's the camera's going to run out?
They actually say this pier is, they don't know when it was built.
All this here. Whole chunks of some sort of masonry all over the place. Cut my hand on a load of brambles.
But you can see, yeah?
Down to the end where my sister is there.
Right, let's move along a bit. The size of them. Here's the breakwater, and they built this as well. This is something else that they built. All this was built at the same time as well. So they went out there, they sunk concrete rafts, and they built this. And there's not,
Built
I think
as well.
There might be one photo of it being done.
In the harbour. God, there's so much I've seen today that I want to film. A whole load of old bricks here. Yep.
Sister thinks I'm crazy. Right, let's have a look up here. Oh, this is quite... These are the salt pans.
Yeah.
Look at the size of that.
This is such a crazy place.
The size is like Jurassic Beach. Look at these mud fossils.
Okay, this is
Go
quite
back and
strange.
show you.
The size of this. Just look at this beach. So ammonite. And she's just found me a nice shell that I'll show you in another video later.
Found me a nice shell that looks like it's got an eye in it.
Just look at this beach.
It's a mud flood beach. Look at it. Jurassic Beach.
Look at the size of this.
But that thing's massive. Right, salt pans.
Tidal.
Now,
So
look.
tides
Right, the tide's out now.
at the moment.
So where are all these salt deposits that they go on about when the tide's out? There aren't any. I think this is the desalination, and I think any excess salt was funneled into these salt pans.
This outcropping. Fish for crabs. Yeah, I've got crabs in here. This old stonage everywhere, look.
That's where I'd live.
All clothes today.
Seriously, there's a bit on in this area, and when I go wild, I will live here.
Awesome sky.
Love it
awesome
here.
Day. Fantastic. How quiet it is. At the moment, just saying to my sister, we used to come down here all the time when we were kids, young little kids, you know, 9, 10 years old, by ourselves. Sort of allowed to run wild a bit when we were kids. Flooded there.
Neglect.
People light fires up here and have barbecues, you know. There's information about this on the internet.
Yeah. So they say that, you know, at low tide, there's huge salt deposits. No, never seen any salt deposits there. Just a lot of seaweed and crabs. But I'm guessing if there was a desalination plant, they had to do something with the salt, and they funneled it in there, and then they probably scraped it up and sold it and used it. I don't know. It's just a theory, but there isn't any fresh water on Portland. But I've read in a couple of places that they had a sophisticated pumping water system on the top for the prison. So I don't know.
Building fires. All quite built up here. See. Definitely. I'd say. Yeah. So cool here.
That is where I'd live.
I could bloody live here. I could get
I sodding could, man. I could live there.
and stay here.
Just love it. It's such a magical atmosphere. Look at it.
I might actually do that, yeah. I might.
I bloody might. Right, we're back at the top of the cliff. We've walked all along there, and there's not a lot much else to say about the vid. I don't think. This is the rifle range close up. Look at the brickwork.
Supposed to be a break for the rifle range.
There's nothing on maps, so there's nothing to say that this wasn't built then. I think that prisoners probably did build this. Look, it's absolutely rock solid. A lot of these structures around are probably from the war, little houses and structures and things. I just don't know. The history of Portland just revolves around certain areas, you know. It's quite difficult to find out much about a lot of it. It's there's a lot about the mystical side of it. It's an important place. It's called a royal manor. It's seriously important, And I think one of the reasons it's so unchanged and undeveloped is because it's got some sort of magic going on here, I'm telling you.
I've also noticed that there's some sort of masonry here that looks like it could have been some sort of round structure, and the wall from this shooting range thing extends all the way up here, and there's a lot of masonry down here we were just looking at. Looks like old foundations of stuff.
That looks more modern, doesn't it?
There's been nothing here in my lifetime. I mean, I've been coming down here since I was 9 years old, and I'm 64 now, and
it looks exactly the same.
exactly the same.
It does, it looks exactly the same.
It does, it looks exactly the same as it did when we came down here as kids. Where's the goats?
Yeah, they keep goats there. Anyway, that's about it really, I think. Folly Pier Waterworks. There's the Folly Pier. There's your Tadpole Pond reservoirs. Here's your quarry. Here's your workforce. Gasworks. Never knew there was a gasworks up there. And they would have had to have a lot of people to get this together. Because if you look at his Folly Pier thing, they built a house, they built the reservoirs, built them, and then they closed it all down because there wasn't any water. The water was contaminated by seawater and sewage. Oh no, that's the Southwell one. So they were very difficult to run. Detailed histories here. I seriously have to do some more research on this. This is going to be so long, I'm so sorry. Mid-19th century origin, so we'll be generous, say 1850, located at East Weirs. It was transformed into a harbour of refuge. The convict establishment was opened in 1848 to provide labour in the quarries. These government works resulted in large increases in Portland's population, which Ireland's established sources of water, spring-fed wells and cisterns could not cope with. Folly Pier Waterworks was constructed. A steam engine was used to pump the water 400 feet up to the prison on the cliff tops above. What water? There wasn't any water. There is no water. Where were they getting it from? As the prison population increased, expansion of the reservoirs followed, along with the construction of additional tanks. They held rainwater for drinking and seawater for bathing. No. The waterworks would later receive some of its water from the Admiralty pumping station at the cliff top at Chain. It closed in the early 1900s following the arrival of a piped water supply to Portland in 1899. The site quickly fell into disrepair, and the tanks had been left filled or nearly so with horrible green slimy water. Oh my god, that would have been total death trap. And then some children appeared in court as they were breaking in there. God, yeah, I would have been. William Evans were playing in the area. Somebody drowned in the tank. Whoa. So they converted the resident. Yeah, no. They filled it with rainwater. Nah. Salt pans on the beach next to it. A history of there being a water supply at the top of the island. A folly pier, yeah, and almost inaccessible waterworks. Why build it down here? Why build a waterworks down here and then have to pump it all the way up here? It's a desalination. It's a ancient desalination plant. I know it is. Okay, right. Sorry I've waffled. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.